And we are live. This is a very exciting time for the Let's Talk Fishing podcast. My name is Jay Angel. I'm going to be your host. And I'm on StreamYard now, which is a video podcast. As you can see, I have smallmouth aficionado and guru, Bill Schultz. This is going to be a great action-packed podcast. First of all, I'd like to tell you that the Garden State Outdoor and Sports Show is going to take place January 6th through 9th of 2022. And that's at the New Jersey Convention and Exposition Center. That's in Edison, New Jersey. The Northern Illinois Sports and Outdoor Show is going to take place January 13th through 16th of 2022 at the Lake County Fairgrounds, and that's in Grays Lake, Illinois, folks. Okay, now, I had Bill on last year, and I told Bill that when you reach 25,000 smallmouths, I want to talk to you again. Well, he's greatly surpassed that. And he's here to tell us why. How you doing tonight? How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good, Jay, and it's great that we can almost just a little over a year, get back on. I like your setup with the video.
Yes, I love it. It's so much easier to talk about the sport of fishing because it's such a visual sport.
Absolutely. So
how did you, Bill? First of all, tell us how many smallmouth do you have now?
Well, I'm literally sitting at 26,000, about 700 as of yesterday. And, I get the question all the time, and I joke, I'm getting older and keeping track every time I'm out. I'm used to it, but now that I'm getting older, it's good for my mind. But, I kept a log, when I was a kid at the Y growing up and I saw the weightlifters all keep logs of their weightlifting. And then at the University of Wisconsin, when I swam, I kept a little 3x5 card in my wallet, of the yards we swam every practice. And then, I 5 decades of racquetball, kept a log of who I played. So pretty obvious when I started back into fishing in 1992 to keep a log. And I'm really happy I did because, as on Delavan Lake, late May 1994, I went there to catch some walleyes. Yes. I caught like 90 undersized walleyes, nothing quite legal.
But I think Delavan Lake in that year, and I can remember catching that many little bitty walleyes.
But what was exciting was I caught a dozen of what I assumed were smallmouth bass, never having caught one. And that kind of planted the seed. And over the next 4 years, I caught about 900. Actually, I can tell you exactly. Until 1998, I caught 890 smallmouth. And I had begun fishing smaller rivers in southwest Wisconsin, which we'll talk about because rivers are phenomenal. And in 1998, I got involved with St. Croix Rod. And by that time, smallies were pretty much what I was going after. So from 1998 to right now, 25 years, I've done almost in just those 25 years, almost 26,000. So it's been kind of fun. The number 25,000, when we met last fall on just doing the telephone podcast, I was about 845 short. Wow. I got a few more to the end of the year, but I began this year needing 845 smallmouth to hit the 25,000. And I did that on August 4th. A couple days before, stopped fishing in a river after 2 hours with 39 smallmouth because I wanted to go to Sturgeon Bay, Door County, even though the fishing, quite honestly, has been subpar for about 5-6 years. And just last week, the DNR finally sent a release noting that the sores we've been seeing are largemouth bass virus. And I will just real quickly say that's probably going to eliminate any weigh-in tournaments in Door County, and it's going to cause people to try to be extra careful not putting smallies in live wells because it's a contact disease. Enough about that. So I wanted to get up there with a better chance at a bigger smallie at 25,000. I did the identical thing in June of 2017 when I approached 20,000. That's when I started thinking about it. And I hit the water up there needing 2 fish for 20,000. 19,999 was 2 pounds. 20,000 was 4.5. So I'm out this time not on Green Bay, but on Lake Michigan. And it was slow. Number 24,999 was 2 pounds.
Okay.
And I was very thankful that number 25,000 was again 4.5 pounds. So it was a nice picture fish. And what's happened, that was August 4th. And I've spent a lot of time into my waders this year, to be honest with you. And
Fun. Love that. I love that. I love that kind of fishing. It's so pure.
Oh, it's, it's really, if I look at that, let's say 26,700 smallies, I know because I've documented it, I'm probably at about, 11 and a half, 12,000 on lakes, most of that on the big water. But I'm probably at 14 to 14 and a half, maybe more, wearing my waders in small rivers. Now, I'm not talking rivers that you're in a boat. I'm talking rivers where a deep area is 4 feet. And,
I spent a lot of my days, particularly when I was in the Air Force over in Oscoda, Michigan, just walking up and down those small rivers with an old pair of tennis shoes and a cut-off pair of military pants.
I have some pictures of me standing in the Wisconsin River, which is, it's bigger. Cut-off pants and tennis shoes. Well, now again, I'm in my frog tog waders and boots.
Yes.
I look a little more like I belong out there. But you know what I want to say, and what your gang, and I'm going to grab this right now. What I think all of you listening, and I really appreciate it. And below you see my email. And if you're interested and you would love to be on my email group of about 1,000 guys, just email me. Or if you have questions, I'm pretty good at getting back. I actually surprise people how quickly I do. But I want to show everybody what I've caught and released. All those 26,700 smallmouth is really a small number of lures. I brought all my stuff back. We have a little house in Sturgeon Bay. So nice. I brought my boat back for winterization, brought the rods and reels back, and I brought 4 bags of soft plastics back. And I looked at them and I jokingly said, no wonder my Yarcraft goes so fast. It's got a lot less stuff in it than other guys' boats.
Yes.
But let me show you something. Right after I caught my first smallmouth bass, I had access to a pond near Milwaukee here, near my house, 6 miles away. And I bought a little lure to use on that pond. And I will tell you that my first cast caught myself 2 nice bluegills. I thought, this is pretty neat. Well, starting in 1995, I began using this on rivers. And I would say of my river 14, 15,000, about 5 or 6,000 conservatively have come on one little lure. And that's the Rebel teeny wee crawfish.
Oh, man, yeah.
And let me tell you something. This is 1 1/4 inches, 1/10 ounce. And one thing I want you guys to note, the front hooks are what it comes with. That's a number 14.
That's all small. Yeah.
They are. But here's the tip. They bend and break because they're small. And the good thing is I've only been hooked a couple times in my life. Both times are the number 14. It's not bad. It's like a mosquito bite. But note on the back, I about 10 years ago began changing out the number 14.
See, that's not number 14.
No, I changed that out to numbers 8 and 10. What that does, it's still not real big, but what it does, you get better hookups.
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
Do you have any? Just let me ask you a quick question. Do you have any theories of why they put such small hooks on there to begin with?
Well, it's a small lure. It's 1/10 ounce, and it's only 1.25 inches long.
But I've caught some amazing big smallmouths on those.
Well, and if
you have too.
Bigger trebles front and back, they would catch each other all the time.
Okay.
Occasionally, a 14 and an 8 or 10 will catch each other. But there's a tip, guys. You look at these rivers that are 2-3 feet deep. This is a 2 to 3 foot diver. It dives nose down. So if you hit a rock, you get it snagged for a second, just let up. Almost never does it not float to the top. It's a floater diver, a dynamite. And again, this year, it was just great. It's a little better when you're looking at warmer temps. You start getting into colder temps like we have right now where the water's dropping down into the 50s. It might be a little too fast. And here's the tip on it. This is ditch brown, but almost all the colors work because the reason this is so great, it's got an extremely tight wiggle with some little rattles. But I think the profile and that tight wiggle is why this is such a fish catching magnet. And it's great. So there's something I've used from day one, catching thousands of smallmouth bass. Now,
So how many of those fish did you catch when you think you have a snag and you let it float to the surface? It starts floating and gets just smacked.
well, like with anything else, sometimes if you think you have a snag and bang, you pop it and it lets loose, they'll grab it right then. And that could be with a jig, that could be with a Ned rig, that could be with anything. The other thing I want to do is I'm going to jump, and I'm just moving down here to grab a couple of things. Probably the teeny wee crawfish throughout my entire time fishing has been, just phenomenal. I want to show you, and and again, we're talking a little more rivers here. Back in 2007, for the very first time, another St. Croix pro staffer on the water gave me a bunch of Kalin's 4-inch Lunker grubs.
Okay.
5-inch. And that was June of 2007.
Okay.
Well, until this year, 2007 was my top smallie year at 2,048 smallies. And all but about 100 came on rivers. And I figured out real quickly that this 4-inch blue pearl salt and pepper is a phenomenal river lure.
That's a nice looking color. I like that color.
Well, it's look at the tail. What it is you've got a very wide and long and wispy tail that if you swim this slow and steady, no jigging, you don't swim it fast, you swim it fast, the tail straightens out, and it's great. This is the only color I've ever used on rivers. I've caught a lot of smallmouth on rivers, and I like the 4-inch over the 5 simply because the body's still pretty big, a little smaller profile. Now, back when I got into the Kalin's Lunker grubs, the very next year, first of all, the color on the big waters of Door County that work the best, and I can say this because when the fishing was much better up there, also before I had our place, I only fished up there in May and June. And in May and June of 2014, I think the last year the numbers were really phenomenal. I caught 714 smallmouth bass in May and June. Every one of them, not all but one, every one of them was on not this color, but the 4-inch smoke, salt, and pepper. And it was phenomenal. And one of the guys on my email group, that next year after 2007, when I began saying, hey, this is a great lure, he sent me the Gopher Tackle Big John's jig. Now, note the eyelet. It's flush and it's 45 degrees and it's turned frontwards. And also, this is like a 2-aught hook. So it's great because it went right through the entire body of the Kalin's, and it's been phenomenal. So many people I know use it. I love it. The sad thing was that Gopher up near Brainerd, Minnesota, the son of the founder, things were a problem. And unfortunately, 3 years ago or so, he couldn't, they went out of business.
Okay.
He used to provide me with, this is the 332nd, and I used to provide me with one of these and a 1/16, which is actually a better river size. The 1/16, same size hook for my talks and different things. Well, I was pretty disappointed. I had enough to last me for a while. But here's the exciting news. Gopher Tackle was purchased by Ron and Stacy. They're out in western Iowa, out near where Berkeley or where Pure Fishing is.
Yeah,
and they've got all the jigs. I just want to say that for all you Gopher Tackle lovers, the Big Johns, they're all there. And the neat thing is they got a lot more colors. So I can keep using the Gopher Tackle jigs. So there's the other great river presentation and a very good lake presentation. You're not talking thousands of smallmouth bass on like a little crawfish lure and swimming the Kalin's Lunker grub. And that went on for years. And it wasn't until, and Jay, you've used this too. And I'm going to go down here and grab one.
Sure.
Because, and I know we're not going to be on that long, and I don't want to get off on the stories, which I can do. But I will tell you that the first time I ever heard about the Ned rig was 2016. And I ran an event up in Sturgeon Bay. Like I run an event in the Milwaukee area called Smallie Night Out that has sold out 9 years in a row. And because of COVID, I've postponed it. It's been sold out for 2022 for 15 months.
Wow.
And that's with 130 places. I can't have any more. But so anyways, I'm up there with a group of 40, 50 guys that are fishing. And one of my friends from Northern Illinois wanted to go out with me, and he showed me the Ned rig. Showed me the Ned rig with the Z-Man Finesse TRD.
TRD, yes.
Well, let me tell you, I fished it for 10 minutes. That's June. I didn't pull it out again until August 1st of that year. I'm at an island off of Door County. With my spot lock, I sat in 10 to 20 feet of water for 7 hours and caught 62 smallmouth bass on the Green Pumpkin Goby TRD. Okay, here's the deal. For most of you who are listening know this, but the important thing about the Z-Man products is Elastec.
Yes.
It's stretchy and it's buoyant. This little guy literally sticks up off the bottom like a little weenie. And with the spot lock, what I'm able to do, up until last year, I literally only fished this on 1/15 and 1/10 ounce little Z-Man. This is the Shrooms, Finesse Shrooms. That's
Okay.
1/10. Little wire hook. Last year I began using, which is phenomenal because the hook's much better, and it's got the Ned locks keeper. And I used them for the last 4 years only in chartreuse, and it's been great. So I have that great day. I'm not from Missouri, but hey, show me. So later that month, I'm on a little river in southwest Wisconsin, 4 hours. The first hour, I caught 15 smallies on my only top water I use. It's the little bitty Booyah Pond Magic buzzbait.
Booyah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then, this little river, the deep spot might be 3.5 feet, 4 feet deep. The next 3 hours, I sat there with and I want to grab the other one here, with the TRD and the TRD tubes, which is a little lighter, so it bounces a little more. I caught another 60. So I ended up 4 hours with 82 smallmouth with all but 15 on the Ned rig. Okay, this is pretty exciting. I used it on September 2nd out at that same island, 5 hours, 52 smallmouth, and I'm going, this is great. And I will tell you that between some rivers and up on the big water, since 2016, I've caught and released probably about 4.5 to 5,000 smallmouth on the Ned rig. It's really a fun presentation, and it's pretty darn easy to do. Literally cast it out, let it sit, let your current move these things around a little bit. And if you don't move them, you're better off. I remember on one of the areas up in Sturgeon Bay, a lot of boats are out in the spring. I had a pretty phenomenal day. I actually had Chase Parsons and his dad, Gary, out behind me. They actually did really well in the tournament, but they watched me take pictures with my camera mounted in my windshield, because I'm by myself most of the time, take pictures of 5 or 6 really big smallmouth. I don't take pictures unless they're over 4 pounds. But anyways, it's really good. But you got to be careful. I literally had a rod and reel flying out the back of the boat when I grabbed a telephone call. So sometimes not doing anything with the TRD with the Ned rig is the way to go. So just wanted to say that the Ned rig continues to be, you look at the teeny wee crawfish, you look at the Kalins, you look at the Ned rig, you're looking at only a few presentations for thousands of smallmouth bass. Now we're going to talk about my most recent addition to my arsenal. And we're still now only talking 4 or 5 things. My most recent addition is, and I'm grabbing it, and I've been told about this 3-4 years ago, and that is the Keitech fat swing. Okay.
Nice.
So I'm told, Bill, you need to get the 3.3s or the 3.8s. So I got the 3.3s and the 3.8s. And about 2 years ago in October, I did really well swimming the 3.3 in deep water, in colder water. Again, like the Caitlin, slow and steady with a heavier jig to get it down. And that was great. Well, I have now become, and I'm going to hang on to them, but I don't use them as much because last May 5th, I'm in one of my kayaks on a lake up north, winds blowing gusts of 30 miles an hour, and I'm at the wrong end of the lake, and it's blowing right down in one of my Jackson kayaks. But I didn't leave because I was catching smallies big time on the 2.8. Okay.
2.8. Okay.
The 2.8 is a neat size. And the neat thing about it is I've always been a fan. If you think about what we've talked about, Jay, little teeny wee crawfish, Kalen's Lunker grubs, not that big, 4 inches. You look at the Ned rig with a 2 3/4 inch TRD or the tubes, all finesse things. That's what I'm a big fan of. Well, the little 2.8, and again, I have to warn everybody, they're very fragile. They work, but if you catch 1 or 2, maybe 3 fish, biting off the end, turning them over, that's pretty good. But that's part of why they're so darn good.
Bill, could you show us how you would hook? Because I have one here too.
Yep.
How you would hook that? Because I want to say that because I'm just going to tell on myself here. For years, I was hooking these things upside down, and of course, I caught fish on a good bite. But if they're a little finicky, if it's not running true.
Yeah, what I'm looking for. This is what I want to grab.
You don't even have to hook it if you don't want to. Just show you.
I have to tell you. I will tell you that you start off the way you'd expect. Your nose, you're going right through the nose.
Sure.
Okay, right up the side, and you've got to where the tail is. It would be called like tail down, and you come out that groove. Okay, so you're like this. You got that tail. I got it.
Okay, that's what I wanted to see.
Yes, that's the way you should start. That's the way you should start. But once it starts slipping, I say one of 2 things. Bite the little rounded nose off and try to rethread it, or just turn the dang thing over.
Okay.
It doesn't really matter. Now, where I've been excited is that this has become a phenomenal, also small river presentation.
I bet it is.
It's just great. And what I'm showing you here I'm covering it up. I've been using, other jig heads that had more of the little prongs up below the head. Well, this is one of the Z-Man. This is everything Z-Man has the Z on the end. This is the fish eye Z, fish eyes jig with a fish head. And this is a 1/12 with a 1/0 hook that's thicker. It seems to hold this on a little bit better. So that's, this is a great, the 2.8. I mean, we're talking 2 years now for me. It's been really good. And I typically like colors where it's darker on top and lighter on the bottom. There's about 8 or 10 colors that I use. And, I don't want to say it here, but if people would contact me, I can give you something that'll make it worthwhile, that you might want to order some online from Keitech USA. But it's been a really great presentation. Now, that being said, I want to tell you about 3 other little swim baits that this year, late in the year on the river, that I literally used for the first time. Z-Man put out a great press release, and I know the guys from Traditions Media pretty well. We've done some things for St. Croix, and they put out, and one of the 2 guys is a friend of mine, Adam Rasmussen. How Adam Rasmussen and another pro fisherman caught 100 bass on one lure. Okay. So of course I had to get on my email, and I emailed my friends at Z-Man, and I said, okay, guys, I want you to know, I think that's great. But I took a Slim Swims, a 3-inch Slim Swims. That's a 2.5. The 3-inch version. I said, I took one of those off, and this was just a few weeks ago. I took it off at 150 smallmouth, and I didn't have to. So these Z-Man products do hold up like crazy. There's the 3-inch Slim Swims, and you put that on almost any jig. I've enjoyed actually recently using the Nedlocks Z-Man product, because that keeper is so nice. It doesn't break off like some of the little prong ones. But anyways, it's just phenomenal. This has been great. The 3-inch and the 2.5-inch for small rivers, Slim Swims. The other, and I'm going to grab them real quick, and we'll go back to Keitech. Very similar, and it's really this easy shiner, 3 inches. It looks very similar, but look at that. And it does hold up, quite honestly. It does hold up better than the fat swings. But this is so you got the 3-inch easy shiner, you've got the Z-Man Slim Swims, and one more. These are, and the Slim Swims and the easy shiner, and this, which is the Swing Impact, are all new to me of the last month and a half, 2 months. And we're not talking a dozen or 2 dozen smallies on these. We're talking probably 500 or 600 just in that time frame. And this, again, this looks kind of like, and I'm going to try to find here we go. Here's the fat swing, okay? You know, it's just bigger with the ribs. Here's the swing. You know, you can see the Swing Impact is just narrower and smaller. So that's it. I mean, that's been it for me. I mean, there've been a few little other things over the years, Jay.
Yeah.
Right now, if I'm out, whether I'm in my waders with my vest on, you're gonna see the Ned rig with the 2 Z-Man products. A little negative to the rivers is a Ned rig, even with a very light jig, and I've been using a 1/20th. It's still, you'll get hung up on these rocky rivers a little more but less than a normal jig. So you've got the Ned rig in both the big water and the rivers that I fish. You've got the Slim Swims, the easy shiner, and both the Swing Impacts. And quite honestly, that's what I've been having just tremendous luck on. And even up in Door County, where again, I'm there. That's where my boat is. So I do spend time in the water. And there's one last thing that and when I do my talks at shows, you see all of this. But there's a few other lures that I'll throw in and go, you know something? I'd used that a little bit. It worked pretty well, but I'm not using it anymore because these are working better. Well, one of the things that for years I always talk about briefly are tubes.
Yes.
And I have to tell you, my little spiel is, tubes can work great, but up in Sturgeon Bay, Door County, there's scum on the rocks year round.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're fishing deeper, especially shallower, you're going to get scum every single time you bring it in. That's one of the positives to the Ned rig. It sticks up off the bottom and you hardly ever get scum on your jig or your lure. Well, anyways, literally, we're talking right now, 1 year ago, November 7th, 8th, and 9th. I'm up there, and the day before, it was either the 5th or the 6th, something you hate. And that is when you're fishing and the guy that's pretty close to you, he's catching and you're not. I hate that.
Yes.
And so here's a guy, he was very nice. I just said, I kind of said, I said, I don't mean to bother you, but I said, obviously you're catching more fish than I am. What are you using? He goes, I'm using a tube. Well, and he mentioned a color, and I had some, and I, for the Thursday and Friday, I did better. Well, I ran into this guy at the boat launch at the end of Friday, and he said, Bill, this is the color that's really working for me now. Well, this is a amber with little purple and black flecks. Okay. So I just want you to know that I'm out the last 3 days with the boat that I had last year and sold. I fished for 15 hours and I had 30 fish between 5 and on the Saturday, the 7th, my personal best at 7 pounds, 4 ounces. And the next morning at 9 a.m. on the exact same tube, I had a 612 that was 1 inch shorter. And so anyways, it's been good. I just got back from up there with my boat to be winterized. And again, the tubes in fairly deep water, 20 to 30 feet of water, was working better than other things. And here's again, for your listeners, Jay, again, we're all looking for deals. And one of my guide friends, do you know Doug Schreiber by chance?
Yes, I do.
Okay, Doug's a great guy. When I do Smallie Night Out, whenever I do it next, Doug's going to be my second speaker. But Doug said, Bill, give a call to Right Bite Baits in Batesville, Arkansas. I checked it out. I just want to tell you that they make their own for themselves. They make them for a third party, but their prices are like almost like getting a discount without getting a discount. So I use their 2.5 inch tubes, and also at bargain prices, they make the really nice insert jigs.
Oh, I love those insert jigs. Yeah.
And they're really, honestly, their price for 10 of these tubes is under $3. You know, you go to a lot of places, that's going to be $5. So
5, 7, 9. Yeah.
And the little insert tubes, a package of 10 is under $3. So I just want you to know I thank Doug for turning me on to these guys, last fall, and they make a good product. So, I'm not, one of the things, Jay, that I hope everyone realizes, nothing that I've mentioned has anybody given me and said, oh, Bill, would you say something good about this? It's a great lure. I'm sorry. The deal with me is from credibility. If I use something and I do great with it, kind of like my story about the 3 times out in a month with the Ned rig, then I get fired up because my credibility, I've got 1,000 people on my email smallmouth group. I have all these people that come to talks, to my Smallie Night Out and other things. I have to tell you that nobody has ever emailed me back or called me or seen me and said, Bill, that thing you told me about, it really isn't very good. And
Huh.
I get dozens of emails. Bill, I used the teeny wee crawfish for the first time. I love it. What's your favorite color? I get those kind of emails.
I can remember catching bass, but on that teeny weeny crawfish on the Rebel Craw back in the 1970s.
Yeah. Oh, it's
and
been
that was when they. I wouldn't change out hooks back in the 70s. That never occurred. Of course, I do now. On every crank I change out hooks. But
I'm not I have to tell you, if you all listen, I'm not a treble hook fan.
No.
The only lure that I have used in the last 20 years or more with trebles is a teeny wee crawfish. I never felt bad with the number 14s, which are like literally a mosquito bite. I feel
Yeah.
a little bad. I become even more zealous about catch and release and taking care of the fish. And that's why virtually everything I use, except for the teeny wee crawfish, is one hook. And I like that because, if you're on top of things with a Ned rig or a tube, rare, especially with big fish, rare is it that the hook isn't in the lip. Very rare. And actually with these, the Keitechs or the swim baits on the rivers, I would say I've had more cases where little fish actually take it deeper than bigger fish.
Okay.
And I think it's because they're really chasing it, and they get it. Thankfully, you get a forceps, or I use they don't make it anymore, the Gerber fisherman tool with the long needle nose.
Those little fish have to get it and get back to hiding before they get eaten by big fish.
But
well, Bill, we have to
real
pause
quick.
here.
I was just going to say, because people are going to wonder, in my arsenal of rods, obviously they're all St. Croix. They're really in a narrow gap. On the rivers, I love like the 610 medium light extra fast. I use the Mojos, which dollar for dollar are phenomenal. I use Legend X and I use the Avid X. On the bigger water, simply because a few years ago, I realized on the really big fish, the medium lights with a Ned rig were not getting enough of a hook set. I used medium extra fast. And the only thing I was going to tell you is here's a really, really great new series that St. Croix has. This is what I caught number 25,000 on. But this new Victory series, which is in a price range that's tremendous. I mean, not much more than the Mojos. I mean, these are 180, 190. And they just last week introduced a bunch more of the rods. I mean, this is the 7.3 medium extra fast, which is a great all-around rod for throwing swim baits, for Ned rig, for tubes, for everything else. And so my rod, are within a certain small segment with, that 6'10" to 7 foot. This is 7.3. So that has been really, really great. And medium light extra fast and medium extra fast. That's all I have. I'm not a bait caster. And the only other rod that I have, some of the Mojo 7.6 medium light extra fast, which are fun to throw, lighter swim baits. You get a lot of distance with them, but that's what I'm using. And I can say that having used this Victory, it's the only one I could get. They got it to me in the spring. I couldn't even get it anymore because they were so hot, but it's been really a nice rod. And the price at 100, 180 bucks or 190 bucks for a high quality rod is really good. You don't have to spend, honestly, $300, $400, $500 to get high end rods. And that's where the Victory and the Mojo Bass in that 140, 150 to 190 are great. So anyways, I hope you got everyone listening picked up, and I went pretty fast. So feel free to email me if you've got any questions. I'm happy to receive your emails.
Okay, we have to pause here for a commercial break real quick. Then when we come back, I'd like you to do some shout outs.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just going to take about 30 seconds.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, here we go.
Hi, everyone. Bob Music here for Grant Rods. Musky fishing's a tough deal. And the job's not done until she's in the bag. Well, how do you do that? It's pretty simple. You need big dog rods from Grant Rods. For your next rod, call them at 847-577-0848. Building custom rods since 1983.
Okay. Now we are back. We're back from that. So Bill, would you like to make any shout outs? Would you like to make any thank yous? Anybody who's helped you along the way? Any companies?
Well, it's funny. My first pro staff was St. Croix Rod in 1998, and I credit them with pretty much everything I've done simply because, they asked me to be on the pro staff, and my question was, the answer was yes, but why? So I said I better do something to make sure they like having me on the pro staff, and that's when I started writing, the many of my, 100+ articles and those talks at sports shows that I've now had over 10,000 people attend. So obviously, St. Croix Rod, but I'm very fortunate to have, for not being a tournament fisherman, the Mercury Yarcraft, Jackson Kayak, Malone Trailers, the lures that I mentioned. Obviously, I've sold them a lot of lures, and but the bottom line is for me is I want to use products that I use before I ever ever told anybody about them, and so I'm lucky that I'm able to use nice products and feel very, very comfortable passing that information on to the people that read my articles, that come to my talks, come to Smallie Night Out, see me on the water, which happens really actually more than I ever thought it would. To be at a launch at 10 o'clock on a weekday and have 3 other people there, and they all are people that are on my email group. No, it's kind of fun. I enjoy it. The one thing I don't do, I'll tell you how to do it. I'll tell you what to look for, but I'm probably not going to tell you an exact location. I'm not a big fan of it. I like to use the word explore in my articles and my talks, because that's what I've done and that's what everyone should do. And you'll figure it out.
So who do you write for now, Bill?
Most of my features have been with, in the last 3-4 years, Badger Sportsman Magazine, a great Wisconsin publication, about 20,000 subscribers. They lay it out phenomenally. I've been really, really excited. Last year in the spring, I did with the North America's leading expert, David Phillip, PhD, an article on the impact of nest fishing on smallmouth bass. Bottom line is, don't nest fish. You can take a bass off a bed, put it right back in that nest in an area with gobies, like up in Door County, is still going to be 50 to 100% shot. I've got some articles coming up. The argument for immediate release tournaments, which is starting to get to be a tough thing to argue against. And then I'm also going to do a feature for them this coming year on what we just have been talking about. The other thing I was going to tell you, and I did one on keeping a log. I did one on, Rick Taylor is the guru for solar lunar times. I mean, his formulas and tables are in Bassmasters every month. This is the little pocket edition. But for 20 years, I pretty much hit the water when Rick says on his scale, it's at least a low end of good to better. But, I've had some pretty good days when even in, Rick's book, it's not rated very high because there's a lot of factors. But, I don't, even my logs are pretty simple. I mean, I don't know water temperature, know like every fish, what did you catch it on? What I do, it's what day, if I'm in a kayak or in waders or boat, how many hours I fish. And on the rivers, fish that are 2 pounds and bigger, I note how many. And in somewhere like Door County, it's 4 pounds and bigger. So, my logs are pretty simple. But the nice thing is it's allowed me to have some fun with it over the years, keeping track of my smallmouth. And, I'm getting close. I was thinking it'd be a few years before I hit 30,000. I mean, if I went nuts next year, I could maybe make it next year. Who knows?
Wow. Well,
if you make myself in shape, Jay.
Yeah, if you make it next year, you let me know and we'll do this.
I would think the year after for sure.
Yes, that would be awesome, Bill. I'm really hoping you make that. Man, set yourself a goal. You seem like the kind of guy who.
You and I've talked when it comes to what we're all dealing with COVID, with inflation and everything else. How many smallmouth bass I catch really is not that important. But for me, and especially now that I'm retired, it's just fun,
Sure.
So it's just fun for me. That's my competition. I don't fish tournaments, but my competition are my numbers.
Well, you compete against yourself,
I do.
And that's where it's at for me too. Yeah. I always try to be better than I was.
It's fun. And I love smallmouth bass. It's a great fish. I'm a zealous catch and release. And you get that big one. I'd said for years, I joked, if I get a 7-pounder, I'll have a replica made. Well, now I have a 7.4, and I've decided, maybe I'll get an 8-pounder someday.
There you go. Then after you get your 9-pounder, then you can get your.
Gee. Hey, get a 9-pounder. I'd be darn close to the state record.
Yes.
It's like Wisconsin. I think it's 9-1. So.
Well, hey, Bill, I do appreciate you coming on here and giving our listeners an action-packed, wall-to-wall podcast, man. This was so information intensive. Wow. Thank you very much for a great podcast.
Thank you, Jay. It's really great to see you because last time we just talked.
Yes. I do like this. I definitely missed the boat because a lot of my friends who do podcasts are now use StreamYard before I did. So I definitely missed the boat in this one, but here I am.
I have to tell you, I'm real impressed with this StreamYard. It's really good.
It is. It makes it so much easier for you to show the folks what you're using instead of just telling them, well, I'm using a 1/10 ounce net head with this. No, it's so much better to show it.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me on, Jay.
And thank you. And I'd like to thank everybody for actually tuning in to the Let's Talk Fishing video podcast. Again, my name is Jay Angel. I was your host with very, very special guest, Bill Schultz. I can't call him anything but a smallmouth bass guru. He's earned that distinction. And just before we leave, I have to tell you again that the Garden State Outdoor Sports Show is going to take place January 6th through 9th of 2022 at the New Jersey Convention and Exposition Center in Edison, New Jersey. The Northern Illinois Sports and Outdoor Show is going to take place January 13th through 16th of 2022 at the Lake County Fairgrounds in Grays Lake, Illinois. More information, nisportshow.com. And thank you very much for tuning in.